Episode 78 of the podcast. Part of being a dog owner is being able to handle your dog and being able to keep your dog healthy. And especially in these times, we realize how important that is for owners to be able to touch their dogs all over. You're listening to the Creating Great Grooming Dogs podcast. I'm Chrissy Newmeyer-Smith. I'm a certified professional groomer, a certified behavior consultant for canines, a certified professional dog trainer, and the owner of Happy Critters in Nashua, New Hampshire. And this, my friends and colleagues, is the podcast where grooming and training meet. I'm going to start off with the very apparently bold statement. I don't know why it's bold, but I'm going to go for it. Owners should be able to work with and on their own dogs. That doesn't sound like it should be really controversial, yet somehow, in this day and age, during this pandemic, it seems to have been forgotten. So let's talk a little bit about that. Most owners should be able to brush their dogs. They should be able to clean their dog's ears, clean around their dog's eyes, cleaning around their bums, give them medications of a variety of sorts, right? Some light nail trimming. Now, here's where people start getting a little bit like, wait, no, why would I need to do that? That's the groomer's job. Or perhaps groomers saying, but owners will mess it up. The problem is that we really need to tell owners that it's their responsibility to keep their dogs healthy, happy, clean, right? That's their responsibility. That could be bringing them to a professional, but there are times when an owner is going to need to be able to do it. Let me give you some examples. I've never come up with the example before of when a global pandemic shuts down dog grooming services, but let's throw it out there. But the more common examples that I give my owners, let's say you are playing with your dog out in a walk someplace out in the woods, and your dog is now injured, or you suspect an injury, and you need to check it out. You need to be able to do it. You need to be able to touch your dog anywhere at any time with any object. And it's not particularly hard to train for the average dog. Now, I will say that there are owners who are have physical limitations that can prevent them from being the one who can do stuff with their own dog. Okay, thinking about one of my neighbors she's elderly, she's frail. I mean, she has trouble sometimes just getting the clip on his collar to put him on his line outside. So occasionally her dog is out running loose, and we have to go out and bring him back in for her, but that's a physical limitation for the human individual. If she didn't have that physical limitation, she'd be all over doing all sorts of great things for that dog. So every owner is responsible for that. Now, that also means that there's a learning curve to that. They're going to have to try to figure it out. And we should be encouraging them. We should be educating them. And anytime someone says, oh, but nail trimming, owners will get that wrong. There's another harsh opinionism, I know. I'm just going to lay it out on the line today. When I was 14, I got my first job working with dogs. And one of the first things they were teaching us was, how to keep a dog clean, how to keep them brushed out, do a quick little cleanup bath. It was at a boarding kennel. There was grooming services there, but it was at a boarding kennel, and how to trim nails. If they could teach the 14-year-old how to trim nails on just about any boarding dog that was coming in, check them for fleas, wipe them down before they go home, then owners can do at least that much. Ta-da! I said it, at least that much. Come on, let's not be ridiculous about what owners can and can't achieve. So when we talk about teaching owners how to do it, that also means that we need to tell them that it's something they're capable of. We need to tell them what tools they need for their own individual animals. We need to tell them to make it light, to spend some time teaching that dog that everything's okay. It's all going to be cool. Don't you worry. Make it fun. Not too fun because we don't want a super wiggly dog, but, always leave it with the impression that, oh, I wouldn't mind doing that again. Hanging out and having my paws wiped down after running in the rain isn't such a bad thing. Or having to go into the bathtub because I ran through mud. These are life things, right? Owners need to be able to do this. A friend of mine, his dog got skunked the other night. Who are you going to take to the dog to? Even in the middle of the night, it's like, well, you know, he had to do it himself. There are things in this world that owners who live with their dogs are going to have to do. Now, to provide good health care grooming's essential, but not necessarily grooming by a professional. And veterinary medicine is super essential. But all of those things that I'm mentioning that owners should be working on and doing also help with the groomer and help with the vet. And no one right now should be in a panic because their dog can't get to the groomer. Certainly it's unfortunate. God knows, I miss my dogs. I miss them all so much. But none of my customers are unable to maintain their dogs for a month to maybe 2 months or however long this pandemic is going to last. None of them are at a point where they can't handle that, because I think that's really essential. And we do have a role as an educator and to help our owners understand that this is something that's necessary. And I'll tell you, so like I said, 14 is when I started working with the dogs. I got my first job at a boarding kennel. It was actually the supervised occupational experience program for high school. So anyway, I got graded on it, worked there. I was learning how to do nail trims on a variety of dogs. Sometimes it was sitting on the floor with a dog who's tethered to the wall. Sometimes it was a dog that was up on a grooming table. Sometimes I'd just go out into their run and trim their toenails. If a 14-year-old can be taught how to do that as part of their job, then an owner can be taught how to do that with just their pet. Some owners are afraid of that. It's okay. We have grinders and stuff that I can't tell you how many of my customers jumped right on that bandwagon when that came out and then decided they didn't like doing it. They can use a file, they can touch their dog's feet, but unfortunately, a lot of our owners are just finding out now, right? They're like, wait, what? Well, no one ever told us we were supposed to know how to do that. That's not my clientele, but that's a lot of owners. And I'm having a lot of people contacting me saying, well, I know you do house calls. Can't you come to my house? I'm like, no, I really can't. So I want you to be thinking about these owners need to know how to handle their dogs. And they can be learning that now. Yeah, get touching your dog, touch them all over with things and stuff, stuff from the coffee table, keep it light. Don't worry about how many customers you're going to lose when we teach our customers how to do stuff, right? So for instance, another example, I no longer do anal glands. Now, as a vet tech, when I was a vet tech, I would do that under the supervising. I can't talk today. Under the supervision of the veterinarian, like if they said, hey, can you check this dog's anal glands? I'm like, oh yeah, sure. Now, there are 2 ways to do that. There's the external version that groomers do, and an internal version with a glove and some lube that is usually done by a veterinary office. But if a dog is really having problems with their anal glands, usually I tell my owners, like, you need to go to the vet for that. That to me is now medical. There was a long time when I did it, but now to me, I see that as medical. However, during a global pandemic, is there any reason why our owners can't learn how to do that? I was 14 doing anal glands. Come on, it's not rocket science. And I know I'm picturing groomers right now swerving off the road and crashing into trees because Chrissy just said it's not rocket science. But it's during this health scare that affects humans and that we need to think about, is it worth it for us right now to come into contact with humans and the stuff that humans have been kissing and loving over? Because it's not like being 6 foot away from another human means that this dog is perfectly safe for us to touch. Because probably that dog has been hugged and kissed and touched by somebody who could have coughed germs all over it 2 seconds ago, right? the risks are too high. Why are we doing this? And some of the things that I've been seeing online are groomers talking about how grooming is essential, but kind of forgetting that grooming by a professional during a global pandemic is not essential. So if we start educating our owners, when was the best time to start working with your dog? When's the best time? The day you meet them. The day you meet your dog should be the very best time to start teaching them about, hey, I'm your trusted human. I am responsible for your health and happiness, and I need to be able to touch you anywhere and do stuff with you and do stuff on you and do stuff to you. When's the second best time to start working with a dog? Today. The second best time is today. No matter how old that dog is, no matter how long this has been going on, the second best time to start teaching your dog about being handled all over is today. And to just start, relax, get the dog used to it. And for groomers, I want you guys to think that owners who are educated are going to be better customers for us. Owners who can get things done on their own are still going to come to us. And if they aren't, you know what? I'll tell you, I have taught people how to groom their own dogs, and they refer so many people to me. Why? Because I was the groomer who cared, who took time to show them how to do it. You know, maybe they come back to me once in a while when it needs to be a really extra pretty haircut, but it's not bad for business. I have found it to be really good for business, right? Like they'll tell their friends, why can't you touch your dog's paws, right? Chrissy told me I should be able to do that. My dog's been great for it. Huh. And then their friend calls. Apparently, I'm supposed to be able to touch my dog's paws. So be educating our owners because they'll still come to you. They'll still refer their friends, right? It's a way of us showing that we care. It's also a way to show them that we are professionals. You know, how many of you guys have walked somebody through the kind of things that we do when we're grooming? I know that never really occurred to me when I first started out, but then as a house call groomer, where you're pretty much hanging out in the kitchen. Oh, I groom in the kitchen and I let people stay and hang out and chat. And I had so many people say, I really had no idea what my dog goes through. No idea, right? They're like saying, oh, he's almost done. I'm like, really? You call that almost done? Like, that's not even, I haven't even trimmed his feet yet, you know? So they have no idea. They're watching. They're like, wow, I had no clue. We educate them, teach them about it, be honest if their dog has problems with something, because you can address a problem without necessarily saying your dog's bad for, right? Nobody wants to hear their dog's bad. You know, your dog is having some real trouble with when I do XYZ. Whatever it is, right? Your dog, I'd like you to work with your dog on being picked up or whatever it is. Every dog that you work with, you should find some sort of enjoyment with, right? That we should be in this because we love dogs. I mean, otherwise it's just hard work with no payoff, right? So you love the dogs. Tell owners he's having trouble with something. We don't need to make it about he's bad for or he's afraid of, things that owners latch onto, right? They just latch onto it like, oh, he's not good for that. Tell him he needs help with it. And seriously, guys, I cannot say this enough. It's an owner's responsibility to take care of their dog's health. We're part of that process. We should be an educator in that process, and we should be preparing them for things like this, a pandemic where they do not have access to the normal services that they would have. Because even veterinarians aren't doing like regular calls right now. Like this is emergency stuff, wound treatment, you know, like they're ongoing health problems. They're not like, oh, hey, we're going to do a rabies clinic, you know? So, if our owners are better able to handle things on their own and to work with their dogs at home, like my owners are, they aren't really stuck right now. I am assured that, you know, my owners are telling me like, well, we're gonna need a nice haircut when this is over, but no, I can get around his eyes. He's looking good. And I'm checking on them. They're telling me that, no, we're fine here. So I want you guys to be thinking about the fact that owners have that responsibility. At the end of the day, the only dogs that I personally am responsible for are my own two dogs who sleep in my bedroom at night, right? Like my pets that have my last name, right? Um, and the dogs that I am currently grooming, like on my table, in my hands. There's a transfer of services there, like while I am working on them. I am in charge of that. But at the end of the day, I'm not going to risk my own health or their health, more importantly, their health. Because I think if I caught this virus, I would probably do all right. But some of my customers would be in a high risk category. I'm not going to risk anybody's health over this. It's just not worth it. If you're enjoying this podcast, please remember to subscribe so that you don't miss any episodes, and tell all of your friends. Now that we've talked about the fact that owners should be able to do whatever they need to do on their dog, let's review how we can teach them to do that. And especially from a distance now, like where we can't actually be in the room. Part of what we can do is start teaching them about how to recognize when their dog is calm, comfortable, and cooperative. Start getting them used to this idea of the 3 C's. And it's something we talk a lot about on the podcast, but I want you to think like we can teach our owners about that. Is your dog calm right now, or is your dog stiff? Right? Is he relaxed? Is he loose? Because a dog that's stiff is one of the signals that owners don't pick up on. They think he was being so good and then suddenly, right? We need them to know when their dog is stiff, when their dog is loose. One of the ways that I teach my owners to check for that, and usually I'm in person, so I have them like, okay, may I put my hand on your shoulder, right? And I mean, once in a great while, someone's like, oh, is this getting touchy? Sorry. But I put my hand on their shoulder and kind of press in a little bit, right? If I can get them to rock a little bit back and forth, then I have them do it to me and I ask them, is your dog loose or stiff? And they press into my shoulder and I give them the example of me stiff and me loose, right? The person who's braced, if they press into my shoulder, and the person who's loose, okay? The next thing I teach them is, okay, now if you're just petting and you're just rub on the shoulder, you know how owners pet their dogs like they're playing air guitar? Like, what are you doing, right? And they'll say, oh no, he's loose, he's relaxed. So I have them do that on my shoulder and then tell me if they know if I'm loose or relaxed or if I'm stiff. And it's suddenly a wake-up moment for a lot of owners. They're like, oh, yeah, I have no idea. Like, yeah, you have no idea because you're just rubbing your hand on the surface and you're not actually moving around. Like if you're holding a paw, you can open palm and check that dog isn't trying to pull their paw out of your hand. If you're holding a paw, you can see if the whole leg is loose. Just kind of wiggle it around a little bit, right? Gentle rocking back and forth. But if you're sitting there just petting the paw, you kind of don't know, right? So teaching owners about loose and stiff is about teaching them about calm. Is your dog loose? Is your dog stiff? And here are some ways to get your hands on your dog and figure it out for yourself. And what we want is loose. The moment a dog stiffens up is the moment they are expressing that they're not comfortable with something. That's where we start getting into comfortable, calm, comfortable, right? If the dog is uncomfortable when they stiffen, when they're worried, when they try to move away, when they try to pull away, right? Those are ways to tell this dog is not comfortable with this. And we can talk to our owners about it's not about pushing through discomfort. It's about backtracking to what they are comfortable with. Relax them again. Even if it's a case of I need to get this eye ointment in their eye twice a day or 3 times a day, you can still spend a couple minutes backtracking to what they were comfortable with and build on comfort. Build on that instead of trying to push through it, which is very, very common for our owners to do. They see, oh, this is the point of resistance. This is where we work on it. If you're doing it right, it's about as interesting as watching paint dry, which is why I have trouble coming up with videos where it shows anything other than a dog who seems pretty comfortable, because I don't push them past that point. So you don't find any videos of me bringing a dog to the point where they're flipping around like a trout on a line and then see what I do, because I don't get them to that point. So that's important for our owners to know, right? Hey, okay, now we're going to keep him calm, and that they can back off. Like I said, even if it's a medication that dog needs 3 times a day, if you spend 5 minutes keeping him comfortable, it's the same 5 minutes you would have spent wrestling him and maybe not getting it in his eye and getting somebody hurt. So sometimes we see fighting and getting it done as the easy way. I know a lot of owners do that. And it's interesting because if we're talking about teaching owners, sometimes I'll set a timer, because I'll ask them, like, all right, how long did you try it? It's like, oh, well, God, it takes us about 10 minutes to try to get those ear meds in. I'm like, did you get the ear meds in? We got it in one ear. I'm like, okay, so it took you 10 minutes. And then I show them my way of doing it. And we gradually build, gradually build, gradually build. And that same 10 minutes gets both ears done. But it's an unfamiliar process, so it feels like it took so much longer. They're like, I don't have time to do that. It's the same 10 minutes. And that's really important for our owners to know. It's the same 10 minutes. What if that 10 minutes is spent making the next one take 5 minutes? Instead of this 10-minute battle, which feels like, man, we are getting it done. We're gonna hold him down, and maybe you like put some peanut butter in front of his nose, and I'll tell him how bad he is. No, and we're gonna clamp him down on the couch, and like they're doing these crazy things. I have a particular dog in my mind that this was his story, and that timer, when you tell them, like, it took you 2 people in 10 minutes and you didn't get the medication in both ears, and you risked getting hurt, and the dog is still uncooperative, but that same 10 minutes spent teaching them that this is comfortable, this is comfortable, this is comfortable, this is all going to be okay. And to have that same 10 minutes mean that the next one takes less time and less time, till eventually people kind of forget that their dog used to have a problem with it. So part of us educating our customers is making sure that they know their dog is not doing something wrong or bad. Their dog is uncomfortable, scared, frustrated, frightened, sore, right? There are lots of reasons why a dog could be expressing that I want to get away from this, I don't want this to happen. And not necessarily because they woke up this morning and said, I'm ahead of a wolf pack, or whatever crazy theories people come up with, or he's just very territorial around me, or whatever crazy stories they come up with. Right? To backtrack too, he seems uncomfortable. Where was he comfortable? And if you're doing it right, it's about as interesting as watching paint dry, right? It's about as interesting as watching grass grow. Like, there's nothing happening. Where's the fun? Well, there's nothing happening if you're doing it right. So calm. That dog should feel loose in your hands, comfortable. The dog should be hanging out with you and not trying to get away. Cooperative is also that not trying to get away. The dog that is kind of hanging out with us, relaxed, maybe a little apprehensive. And you know what? I'm going to say a lot of trainers don't want any sort of apprehensive dogs. And what I mean by that is the dog that's kind of looking at you like, I don't know. But I'm going to say, for grooming purposes, the lesson that the dog needs is that we need to do stuff to you. We don't always have active participation. So I put a couple videos up I have Creating Great Grooming Dogs YouTube channel, the Creating Great Grooming Dogs Facebook group, and the Facebook page. But I put a couple videos out, and they're on YouTube. I was playing around with putting muzzles on my own guys. And you will see I'm kind of going through a variety of little different tips and tricks. But everything is based on that individual dog's point of view and the responses I'm getting from that individual dog. And you will see that I kind of, okay, well, he's the second video, the day 2 one, where I'm actually working with Poe, he is snuggled up against me, kind of thinking about, like, oh, I don't know. And he looks really sad, but he's also not being restrained. Even when I had my arm around him to be able to get the muzzle on him, it wasn't a, I'm holding you here to do it, as much as it was a, come on, I just need to move my arm around to get to the other side of your face to be able to pull this on. It's about doing things to them, on them, for them, with them, but not necessarily like the first video. I put the muzzle out and gave Brock the chance to take the treat out of the muzzle. And you will see that my super food motivated border collie is suddenly like, I don't know, it feels like a trap. Just do the thing. Because my dogs are used to having things done to them. They're like, just do the thing. Put it on me. Don't ask me to put it on myself, right? So I want you to be thinking about the ways that we work with the dogs is always going to be about what that dog is doing. It's a response to that dog. We need to be careful about their feelings. I know that sounds so granola crunchy, doesn't it? But if we are keeping them calm, comfortable, and cooperative, and we're having our owners work on things like that, then we don't end up with dogs that owners can't touch on their own or can't handle, or dogs who come back to us with some terrible, crazy, bad habits, you know? One piece of advice I saw this week was somebody talking about how they have their owners, work with things around the toes and stuff, like a beard trimmer or something that just has that vibration, electric toothbrush, beard trimmer or something for practicing with poodle feet. And on the one hand, I'm like, yes, that's awesome. On the other hand, I'm thinking that's a higher level step, because some owners are going to take that and torment their dog with beard trimmers. Some owners are going to be like, oh, they said I have to get the electric toothbrush around your feet, you Sparky. No. Like, they're going to bomb this. They're going to do it so terribly. And then the dog is going to come back like, oh, I've had a lot of practice at flailing, So when we start talking to our owners, we can talk to them about the 3 C's. We can show them on their own shoulder. And maybe we can't right now, because we're doing stuff online, but we can describe it. Or you can send them to this episode. That works too. But it's really important for us to be educating our owners and helping our owners take care of their dogs. We're all in this together. Help our owners take care of their dogs. It's just good business. It's good for us as groomers. It's great for the vet. It's good for training. It helps our owners. And the dog is going to be better for it too. I mean, all around, it's great. So we need to start thinking that handling for healthcare is something owners should be doing, because good behavior starts at home. If you'd like more information, you can find me at Chrissy@happycritters.net, happycrittersdogtraining.com, or you can join the Facebook group, Creating Great Grooming Dogs podcast, or the Facebook page, Creating Great Grooming Dogs. I really look forward to hearing from you.